Excellent. I think we're live now.
I do too.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lunchtime Live. It's been a while since we've done one of these, so thanks very much for coming and joining in. I see we've got about 100 people signed up today, which is great. Really looking forward to that and hoping it's going to be a very, very, very good session. I'm Adrian Mather. I work in the comms team here at FreeAgent, and I'm joined again by Emily Coltman, our wonderful chief accountant, who is going to be on hand to talk about expenses today. It's always a popular topic, so we thought we'd do another one on that, especially relevant considering self-assessment season is coming up as well. Basically from now until January, I think it's going to be everyone trying to get in and do their tax returns. So if you have any questions about expenses, self-assessment, or anything along those lines, then write them in the Q&A box, which should be on the top right of the screen. Just click on it, and then you'll get all of the Q&As. You can just write one in there, and we will answer them as soon as we can. I think we're probably best just plug straight on.
Dive in, because we've got a lot already.
We certainly do. I think we'll start off first of all with a question from Michael. He says, I have a question about business use of your home. What percentage of the costs, such as mortgage, rent, council tax, utilities, etc., can be put against my business?
Very good question, Michael. Well, the answer is, firstly, it depends on whether your business is a sole trader or a limited company. If your business is a limited company, HMRC are actually more strict, and they say that you can't claim any part of costs that you would pay anyway, things like mortgage interest or rent or council tax. You can only claim the extra costs that are what we accountants call marginal. So that means only costs that you would pay extra because you're working at home, so things like light and heat. For sole traders, HMRC actually are a bit more generous. They give you a percentage of things like mortgage interest, rent, council tax, light and heat, not your water, you're out of luck with that. Cleaning, if your house is all cleaned and including the room you use for business. Repairs, if the repairs are to the whole house, then you can start looking at claiming percentages. In terms of how much, what you need to do is work out how many rooms you use in the house and how much you use each of those rooms for business. That's the method I use, but HMRC say you can use any fair and reasonable method to apportion those costs. And we've actually got a couple of infographics that illustrate how you should work out business use of your home in terms of how you calculate it, and also a steer towards what costs you can claim. So if I smile sweetly at Adrian, I hope he will put those links live on the Google page.
We certainly will. We'll put them up. There are two infographics. There's one for sole traders and one for limited, one for directors of limited companies.
Absolutely right.
And they're different depending on which of those you are. So
absolutely.
Hopefully they'll be useful, and we'll put them up onto the events page either during the session or we'll do it right afterwards. So they'll be there and you can see them. I think is that it for Michael's question?
That's it for Michael's question.
Excellent. We're done. We'll do this next one from John, who says, I have 2 family cars that I use regularly for the business. It's about 70% personal use and 30% business. I'm registered as a limited company, and for VAT, do I need to explain each journey and mileage?
Thank you, John. Okay, well, because your business is a limited company, it sounds like it's not the company that owns the cars, it's you. So in that case, what you need to do is you need to record your business journeys in FreeAgent, and you need to do that under My Money Expenses and choose Add New Mileage. And what you need to do with that is you need to record how far you travelled, on what day, and for what purpose. Make sure it is a business journey. Be very, very clear about that, because HMRC will almost certainly say, for example, that a journey between your home and somewhere that counts as what's called a permanent workplace, as in you're going to be there for more than 2 years, for more than about 40% of your time. If you're going to do that, then HMRC actually say that's not a business journey. And also, they say that a journey to a permanent workplace isn't a business journey, even if it's out of the ordinary. So, for example, I'm based here in Edinburgh. If Ed said to me, I need you to come to Edinburgh for a meeting on Sunday, even that doesn't count as business travel. So they are very, very strict about that. So just watch yourself, check the HMRC rules for your specific business, see what actually does count as business journeys. But yes, because you're a director of a company and you own the cars, not the company, you track them as mileage through FreeAgent.
Okay, thanks very much for that, John. We're just going to take all these questions as they come, so there may well be some crossover between some of them. If it's something we've already answered, then we'll either say it or we'll just answer it again. But I think that's probably easier rather than trying to make a judgment as we go.
Yes.
Okay, next question from Laura, who says, she says, hi, is it still possible to claim for business-related expenses that do not produce a receipt, such as an Oyster card top-up or a ticket for a pay and display car park? Also, can relevant educational conferences be claimed as business expenses?
Very good questions, Laura. The first one, business-related expenses that don't have a receipt. Basically, HMRC say you should do your utmost to be able to prove all your expenses. So, for example, if you've got an Oyster card top-up, what you'll normally be able to do is actually log into your Oyster account online and print out a report of your journeys. So if you can do that to show HMRC, you'll be absolutely fine. Ticket for a pay and display car park, they will produce tickets, try and keep them. If it's the kind of ticket that's pay on exit, so the ticket gets eaten by the machine as you leave, what I would recommend you do is photograph the ticket before you leave. Photograph it on your camera, on your smartphone. You can also do that as you record the expense in FreeAgent. So you might even, in the car park before you leave, whip out your phone, record the expense on FreeAgent, photograph the car park ticket. Then if the barrier eats it, no problem. You've got the proof of the ticket saved in FreeAgent. You've also not going to miss out on tax relief because you forget to record the receipt. So get a receipt if you can. If you can't, HMRC say they expect you to do your best to recreate the records. So that's what the Oyster printout would do. Or, for example, a credit card voucher. That's a good step towards recreating the records. As for relevant educational conferences, again, training is a bit of a grey area. If you're a sole trader, then you're not actually allowed to claim for training courses that teach you new skills to use in your business. Only for training courses that brush up existing skills. So, for example, I'm a chartered accountant. If I go to a training course to, for example, learn all about a tricky area of VAT, if I'm a sole trader, I can't claim that. Whereas if I go on a CPD course to just brush up my knowledge of accounting, that's fine. It's a fine line and you've got to be careful. So check with your accountant if you're not sure.
Okay, I hope that's useful, Laura, and that's answered your question. Next one here from Cameron, who says, hi there. My question relates to leasing a car. He says, I run an LLP and I'm about to start leasing a car. The car will be both for both business and personal use. Can I put the payments through the books, claiming back the VAT?
Right, okay, well, the bit about the LLP, because an LLP is a separate legal entity, it does depend whether it's you who's renting the car or whether it's the LLP who's renting the car. Things do start to get sticky, and if I'm honest, I'm not very well up on LLPs because they are quite unusual. So my suggestion would be to talk to your own accountant about that, Cameron. The rule for claiming VAT for car leases is usually that you are only allowed to reclaim 50% of the VAT incurred, because HMRC do expect that you'll use the car for business and personal use. But as far as claiming the mileage and what have you goes, I'd discuss that with your accountant. I'd hate to give you the wrong answer.
Okay, hope that's helpful, Cameron. Next question here is from Kieran, who says, since I run my business from home, I meet many clients or have business meetings at local restaurants for lunch, dinner, etc. How do I input this? Also, we tend to meet for social engaging purposes to build relationships at events. So how would I classify expenses for that? So I think that's more into networking and
yes,
clients.
Exactly. Okay. Kieran, I'm afraid that all of that actually sounds like business entertaining. If you're buying lunch or dinner or anything for someone who is not a bona fide employee of your business, it's business entertaining. You cannot claim VAT on it. You cannot claim tax relief. Also, networking events. I don't know whether you'd be able to claim that it's advertising, that it's networking, but again, if you're buying dinner, if you're entertaining someone who is not a bona fide employee of your business, it's got to be business entertaining. So I actually had a case where I had a client whose wife did unpaid work in his business. Husband used to take his wife out for a meal once a year to thank her for her work in the business. HMRC wouldn't even let him claim that because he said she's unpaid, she's not on the payroll, she's not an employee, can't have it.
So would you think for like say if it's a networking event, like sort of speed networking, something like that, they might be treated the same as like the conference or something, that kind of thing for a business?
Could be. The thing is, if it's a networking event, what you're actually aiming to do is to build up your contacts. You're aiming to get more business. So a fee to attend a networking event, I think you should be okay with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hope that helps, Kieran. Next question is from Jacqueline. I hope I pronounced that right. Which is actually saying, can you just reiterate what you can do for a training course, and if you're a limited company?
Well, that's a fair question. That is a fair question, Jacqueline, because when I answered the question before, I was talking about sole traders rather than limited companies. For a limited company, the training has to be related to the performance of your duties. So for a limited company employee, training that enables you to perform your duties, you can claim tax relief on. So what exactly that means is a very good question. If you can argue with HMRC that the conference you're attending means that you can perform your duties or means that you perform your duties better, then you might well be able to claim tax relief on it. Otherwise, you could well be out of luck. So it depends on the conference and the scenario.
Okay, I think we have kind of on the same related topic here, a question from James saying, I studied a language course in the hope that I can expand my client base. Can I add the course as an expense?
I think the honest answer is no, James. Certainly not if you're a sole trader, and the reason for that is that it doesn't enable you to do the business you now do. At the moment, your business doesn't require you to be able to speak French, German, Mandarin, whatever the language is that you're learning. So I think I'm sorry you're out of luck with that.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
Yes.
Next question here from William, who says, we have a small office and so often we have to conduct meetings at local cafes or hotels nearby where we will order refreshments or even sandwiches, so there's no charge for the use of the tables or the rooms. Is this expense tax deductible? It
depends who the meetings are with, William. If the meetings are with bona fide employees of your business, and if it comes under the refreshments rules, which are that you're providing refreshments for everybody concerned and it's relating to a meeting, then you should be okay. But unfortunately, if you're having meetings with clients, even though you're basically paying for the food and drink and what have you in lieu of rent of the office, unfortunately HMRC don't see it like that. They say, no, business entertaining, can't have it.
I'm going to throw possibly a spanner in the works here. What would it be any different if you were having a meeting with a contractor that you've paid for? HMRC guidance is actually unclear on that. Right.
There's one point where they say that you can actually reclaim VAT on the subsistence costs for a contractor who is treated the same way as an employee. But they say that's subsistence only, so that's sort of everyday food and drink, not entertaining. I did take them up with that on entertaining. So we had an interesting time of it, actually. The first FreeAgent Christmas dinner we ever had, because we had a team of employees. We had one contractor who was basically like an employee as far as subsistence was concerned. We had spouses. So we had a very interesting game straightening that out in terms of who got tax relief and who didn't. It is complicated, so do talk to your accountant.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way. If there's something that's that's unusual or tricky or just complicated, then do go and get expert help on it, because the worst thing you want to be doing is getting that wrong and then having HMRC on your back.
Exactly, because I'm answering the questions from the limited knowledge I have, basically based on the questions that you ask. But remember, I don't know your business. I don't know the specific circumstances of what you're doing. So if you're in any doubt, check with your accountant or with HMRC.
Okay. Next one is from Trisha, who says, hi, I am having an extension built on my house, mainly for office space. Can I claim any of this as a business expense?
You probably will be able to, Trisha, but what you can claim will depend on, for example, whether the extension is heated with your house or whether it has its own heating supply. It will depend on, for example, whether it's freestanding or attached. There's quite a lot of ifs and buts around that. And in fact, it's an area accountants don't agree on. So again, I would say have a chat with your own accountant.
Okay. We'll come back to that one. We actually do have a question that said, on William's question from beforehand, if I have an LLP, is it any different? Unfortunately, we've actually clicked on it, so we can't get back to his question. So if you could...
It's okay, I remember what it was. It was the question about lunch and dinner for,
of course,
for people at coffee shops. No, I'm afraid it isn't. The answer is it's that for everybody. Those are the rules for everybody. If you're taking people who are not bona fide employees out for lunch or dinner, no, you're out of luck. It's business entertaining.
Okay, sorry about that. Next question from Luke, who says, I'm currently on the reduced VAT scheme. Can I move back to the normal VAT rate so that I can claim back VAT on purchases, etc.?
Okay, Luke, what I think you're asking is, you're currently on the flat rate scheme. Reduced VAT is actually something different. It's where you charge VAT at 5% on certain goods and services. So apologies for being a picky accountant. What I think you're asking is whether you can come off the flat rate scheme. And the answer is yes, you can come off the flat rate scheme, but you must let HMRC know you're coming off. Otherwise, they'll think your returns are wrong. There are details on their website for how you would write to them to let them know you're coming off the scheme. And then, yes, you'd be able to start reclaiming VAT on purchases made after you come off the scheme and so forth.
Okay, I hope that helps, Luke. Next question from Kieran again, who says, I think it's for a clarification. It says, thanks for answering our question earlier about business entertaining. So long as I pay for lunches and dinner and at social/sports events tickets using my business card, will it be fine as to have them as expenses for my business? My networking has improved my business. So.
That is interesting, Kieran. I mean, the thing is, if you're going to social and sports events, what that sounds like is that it would actually have what HMRC call a dual purpose. So partly it's for networking to improve your business, partly it's actually for your own enjoyment. So for example, if you're going to the football and you go because you enjoy watching football and you would go anyway, even if you weren't going, to make new contacts, I'm afraid HMRC would actually say that you can't reclaim the cost of your lunches and travel there, because they would say that that event is not just for business, or in their terminology, it's not wholly and exclusively for business. So I think you could be out of luck if it's a social event or a sports event.
I think it would probably depend on sort of the setup, what kind of event and stuff it is. So again, it's back to that, you know, if you think that there's a definite case there, then do speak to your accountant.
Exactly.
And they may well be able to tell you more than we can.
The other point is, if you happen to be sponsoring, say if you're sponsoring a local event at, say if your children play tennis and you're sponsoring a local event at the tennis club, your business is sponsoring it, that may well be fine, but then you wouldn't be able to claim something like the tennis club fees for your children. I actually saw a client try to do that on one occasion.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I hope that helps, Kieran. But as we say, you know, if it's probably best to get in touch with your accountant just to discuss the finer details of that.
I'd agree that definitely. Yeah.
Cool. Next question here is from Paul, who says, I have a limited company which I work for as self-employed, so non-PAYE, self-assessment, etc. Can I claim for the room which I use solely for the office use in my own home? Well,
that's a very unusual situation you're describing there, Paul, because if you have a limited company that you work for, you would normally not be self-employed, you would be an employee. So the situation of a director of a limited company working for that company as self-employed is so unusual. I'm not going to risk giving you any guidance. I would say speak to your accountant about that, because as I say, it is a very unusual hybrid kind of situation.
And again, it's back to that, you don't want to get the wrong advice complete for that kind of thing. So no, go and speak to your expert. I think
I would do, Paul. Yes.
Okay. Next is a question from Reg, who says, hi, can I claim on redecorating a room in my home, plastering and painting walls, which is my office?
That sounds very promising, Reg. If you're a sole trader, my answer would be unquestionably yes. But it would also be, remember that if you use your office for both business and personal purposes, you could claim only the proportion that relates to business use. So say if you use that room for 80% business and 20% personal, you could claim 80% of the repair cost, assuming it's just that one room you're having repaired. bear in mind that if you own or you're buying your home, so if you've got a mortgage, then it's actually a very bad idea to have a room that you use just for business, because HMRC will regard that room as a business asset when you come to sell the house, and you'll have to pay capital gains tax on the value of that room. So have a room that you use for mixed purposes. It's got to be used for business some of the time, but you use it at other times for personal. For example, my office doubles as my music room and it's got a piano in. So a HMRC inspector who questioned that it was a music room would only have to look at a piano to know that it was partly used for personal.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. So I hope that helps your question, Reg. Next is from John, who says, I carry out mystery shopping assignments. I get paid a fee and a separate reimbursement to cover all or some of the cost of the produce purchased. Is the fee classed as income and the reimbursement classed as an expense?
Okay, John, thank you for your question. The fee is unquestionably income. The reimbursement, there's actually going to be two parts to that. You're going to pay out some money when you incur the costs, then you're going to get some money from your client as the reimbursement. The cost is an expense. The reimbursement is income. So basically, the expenses will have no effect on your profit because it will go up for the client paying you, but it'll go down because you incurred the cost. So, for example, let's say you spent £20 on a train ticket to journey to a particular town to do a mystery shop visit, and the client is giving you a fee of £100 for the job. So you spent 20, the client pays you 120, your profit is 100, namely your fee. So yes, the reimbursement is income, but the cost that you incurred is an expense. Therefore, the net profit you make on getting paid back for your expenses is nil.
Okay, hope that helps. Next question is from Miranda, who says, I'm a sole trader freelancer. I have set up a business account for the first time and I'm confused whether it's best regarding tax to pay for expenses out of my business account or to pay with my personal account and then transfer the refund from the business account.
Okay, Miranda, because you're a sole trader, the honest answer is it makes no difference. You can spend the money from your business account or you can spend it personally and have the business pay you back. It's just easier and less fiddly to pay for business expenses from your business account and personal expenses from your personal account. Keep them separate as far as you can. That is best business practice because HMRC do expect you to be able to distinguish between business costs and personal costs. The best way to do that is to have separate bank accounts for them. Just helps. But as I say, as you're a sole trader, from a tax point of view, HMRC don't mind. So, as I say, my recommendation from a good practice point of view is use your business account for business costs and your personal account for personal costs.
What would be the case if you're a limited company?
Limited company, it starts getting a bit stickier because you are separate legal entities, you and your limited company. Mm-hmm. The other issue is that the company reimbursing expenses, if they're not bona fide business expenses as laid down by HMRC, that can actually mean there's more tax due. If your business is a limited company, you're best to have the company pay for company costs, you pay for your own.
Okay, thanks for that, Anne. Next question here from Simon, who says, if you claim expenses for use of home, are you exposing your house to be liable to business rates? And would you lose a proportion of the principal private residence relief on your home?
Okay, Simon, I'm going to answer your questions in reverse order. You'd lose a proportion of the PPR relief if you use a room exclusively for business all of the time. So that was the point I made earlier about don't just use a room for business. Use it just for business some of the time and just for personal other time. It's important that you do use it just for business some of the time or you can't claim any expenses, but you should also use it for personal some of the time to protect your PPR relief. As far as business rates goes, no, you claiming expenses for use of home does not expose you to business rates. What exposes you to business rates is what you actually do when you're working from home. So if you are, for example, a writer or an illustrator and you're just using a corner of your house to write or draw or whatever it may be, you're not going to be liable to business rates. You'd be liable to business rates if, for example, you had converted a room, you've got members of the public coming to visit you. So for example, if you're a doctor and you've converted your front room to be your surgery, then you're going to be liable for business rates on the portion of the house that you use for your surgery and your waiting room. So it depends, as I say, have you made alterations to the house? Do you get the public coming to visit you? That's when you start to be liable for business rates. But if you Google business rates working from home, there's actually some very good guidance out there about it.
Okay. I see we've got Kieran with a follow-up. I think this might be back to ask your accountant, but we'll take it anyway. He says the events that he was mentioning, so that's the sporting events and stuff,
Yes.
were mentioned by clients as a meeting place. I wouldn't have gone there by myself as a choice, but this was solely for business. All I want to show it is as an expense incurred on my profit and loss as a director of a limited company. So.
Okay. So it sounds like you're not going for your enjoyment, Kieran. It sounds like you were going because your clients asked you to go there. But again, as I say, because it's a social event, you might find you might find HMRC don't look kindly on it. So my suggestion would be discuss it with your accountant and with HMRC, because there is limited help I can provide here, only really knowing part of the issue. I would discuss it with your accountant.
Okay. Next question from Jay, who says, I live in Birmingham with my wife, but I have clients in London, so I'm in the capital 3 or 4 days a week. Because of this, I've taken out a tenancy on a flat in London, as it ends up being cheaper than hotels. Can I claim this as an expense?
Do you know, Jay, I'm afraid my answer is going to be no. And I'll tell you for why. Because HMRC would view London as your workplace or your base of operations, and they would view the travelling from Birmingham and your accommodation in London as expenses that you've incurred to enable you to live in Birmingham, not expenses that you've incurred to be able to enable you to work in London. They do that. I have read the guidance in quite a lot of detail on this subject. And if, as I say, your base of operations or your workplace happens to be in one town, but you live in another for reasons that are not connected to your work, then I'm afraid they would actually say that you do that travel and that accommodation to enable you to live in Birmingham, not to enable you to work in London.
Okay. What would be the case if you were actually taking hotels? If you were staying in hotels? Same thing.
Same thing.
Sorry about that. Okay, follow-up question from Luke. He says, thanks for answering my question on the flat rate scheme. Once I move to the normal scheme, could I backtake my VAT claims on purchases? He also says I do the same as Paul, but I don't actually remember what Paul did.
Paul's question was about being self-employed through a limited company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. So perhaps it's not that unusual, but it's, as I say, Paul was the first time I'd ever encountered it in 14 years of small business accounting. But yes, two on the same training. Hey, I'm going to get my eye wiped. Luke, thank you. Could you backdate back claims on purchases? No, I don't think you could. I think that if you made the purchase while you're on the flat rate scheme, no, I think you wouldn't be able to backdate. Okay.
This is really good. We are going to keep going for another sort of 10 or 15 minutes. But if you have any more questions, get them in the next minute or so, because after that we're just going to have to cut them out because we've already got like a bit of a backlog. So probably keep on going until about 1:15, if that's okay. Next question is from Samesh, who says, I purchased train tickets for myself and colleagues for site visits so we can be seated together. I invoice this expense to the end client. Can I claim all tickets as an expense against my limited company's corporation tax?
Well, based on the information you've supplied, Samesh, I would say the answer is yes. But you need to make sure that those journeys are bona fide for business. And also you need to make sure that if they're site visits, you could possibly get caught by the workplace rules that say if you're spending more than 40% of your time on that site over 2 years, that's, by the way, if you're an employee of a limited company. If you're doing that, then HMRC might actually say, well, it's a journey to a permanent workplace and not let you claim it. So unless you're caught by those rules, then you should be okay.
Okay. Next question is from Babs and Greg.
Babs and Greg.
Babs and Greg.
Two people.
Oh, right. Sorry. It says, I'm a little confused. I have an LLP, so we'll file my LLP tax returns in due course, and my partner tax return through self-assessment in January. Will my expenses be notified on my LLP's accounts or on my self-assessment?
What I'm thinking is, if they're business expenses that come off your business's profit, they would actually go on the LLP's return. On your own self-assessment, you would report your share of the LLP's profit, but you wouldn't show the expenses broken out. That is, I believe, how it works. But as I say, my knowledge of LLPs is not as strong as sole traders or limited companies. So I would check with your accountant if you're not sure. But my understanding is costs go on the LLP's tax return, and then your own tax return, you just show the cost of the profit, sorry, your share of the profit.
Okay. We have a question here from Caroline, who I think is referring back to the question we had about expenses in London. She says, I'm a bit confused regarding expenses if you have clients in other cities. I have clients the breadth of Scotland, including Dundee, where I am based. Can you clarify, please?
Well, it does depend, I'm afraid, Caroline, on what your business is and what you actually do and how long you spend in each city. There is no clear guidance from HMRC on this. It's all based on case law. They had, for example, a milkman who was on who wanted to claim travel expenses to the depot where his milk float was parked. They've evolved the guidance around cases like that. So my suggestion would, I'm afraid, be sit down with your accountant and go through the rules for your actual business, because I'd hate to give you the wrong guidance.
Okay. Next question from Greg, who says, I'm operating as a sole trader. I registered with HMRC in September, but bought office furniture prior to my registration. Can I claim any of this back as setup costs?
Yes, you can, Greg. The good news is that if you incur costs before you registered as a sole trader, then so long as they are costs that you would have been able to claim tax relief on had you been trading when you bought the cost, when you incurred the cost, and so long as it happened not more than I can't remember if it's 6 or 7 years, 7 years, I think, before you started to trade, then you'll be okay. So in terms of office furniture, basically HMRC will treat that as if you bought it on the day you began to trade.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Greg. Hope that helps. I'm going to take this next one here from James, actually, because it's a bit more sort of free agent focused, if that's okay. It says, my bank, Barclays, issues a loyalty reward periodically, and this is reported into FreeAgent through the through the automated feed as loyalty reward
33p.
For 33p. How would I explain this accurately?
What you would do, James, to explain that in FreeAgent is you would explain it as with type refund and with reason bank or finance charges.
Excellent, short and sweet.
Yeah,
I hope that helps, James. Give us a shout if you've got any other questions. Okay, back to Luke. It says back to the flat rate, the back flat rate scheme. It says, I believe that there's a threshold where I can actually claim back VAT if I think it was around £2,000. Is this correct?
You're right with the threshold, Luke. It's £2,000 including VAT, but it is not for all your purchases. It's if you buy a capital asset. So that's something like a computer or some office furniture. Doesn't have to be just one item, but it all has to be bought all at once from one supplier. And if you buy that and it's cost over £2,000, including VAT, in one transaction, and it is some equipment for your business, then yes, you can reclaim the VAT. Bear in mind, though, that when you sell it, Luke, you actually have to pay to HMRC the full amount of the VAT you charge to the person who buys it from you, not the flat rate, the full amount if you've claimed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Kieran Back's asking, will it be possible to clarify further if I call the support line for us? I'm afraid not.
No, Kieran, sorry, we don't provide accountancy advice. We are not actually allowed to give you any more guidance than I've been giving you here. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to employ an accountant. Yeah,
and certainly, I mean, go and speak to HMRC as well.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
it's probably more important in the short run. You know,
yes.
Give them a shout, and if they can help give you more clarification, then that'd be great. And if not, then go and actually find and speak to a proper account.
If you look at our website, if you go to freeagent.com and you scroll down to the find an accountant section, which is towards the bottom of the site, you will see there a list of our partner accountants, and they would be able to help you. But as I say, no, please don't call the support line to ask for accountancy advice, because we're legally not allowed to give it. We're not allowed.
Sorry about that. Okay, next question from Mark, who says, as a sole trader, can I claim back my travel via bus or train and taxi from HMRC.
Okay, well, how it works, Mark, isn't so much that you ask HMRC to give you back the money you've spent on the travel. What you would do is, if those journeys count as bona fide business journeys as far as HMRC are concerned, you put them in your accounts. So in FreeAgent, you explain them as travel. And what that does is it reduces the amount of profit that you pay tax to HMRC on. So when you're a sole trader, you earn money by selling goods or services to your customers. That's your income. You incur day-to-day running costs, like traveling costs, like paying an accountant, like buying stationery. And then what you do is you take those day-to-day running costs away from your income, and that figure there is your profit. And then with a few little adjustments for tax, things like on when you buy equipment, that is what you pay tax to HMRC on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's done. It's Kieran back saying, thanks very much for the support. I really loved the interaction. Good. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for that.
I'm glad we were able to give you some help.
Yeah, and as I said, sorry we couldn't give you any more than that, but
yeah,
we've got to be very careful on that kind of thing. I think this might be the last question here, unless we get oh no, there's two more that have come straight in. Excellent.
Yep.
This is from Clive. Hi Clive, we've been along to these before.
Yes.
To other Q&As. Says, I need to buy a new laptop. Is it better to do this before my financial year ends or later? I want to minimize tax on the business as much as possible.
Brilliant question, Clive. Buy it before your year end. Before your year end. You may well end up getting the tax relief a year earlier. Buy it before, not after.
Okay, again, short and sweet. I hope that helps you out. For another follow-up from Jay, who says, can you please provide some very general guidance on how a director's loan works and any limits to its use?
Yes, okay, Jay, I'll do my best for you there. A director's loan basically is just a posh accounting name for money that either the director owes to the company or the company to the director. So basically, if I put some money into my company, Accounts in English Limited, that is money I've lent to the company. That's a director's loan. And the company owes me that money back, so it is a liability of the company's. If, on the other hand, I take more money out of the company than it owes to me, my loan is actually going to go overdrawn, as we accountants call it. That means it will actually become a debit entry in your books. It'll become an asset of the company. It'll become money that the company is owed. That's actually a damn bad idea when it's a director's loan, because firstly, if it's over £10,000, it actually becomes a taxable benefit. Secondly, if it's not repaid within 9 months of the year end, there's more tax to pay, which is income tax, and it's called Section 455 tax if you ever hear your accountant talking about it. But what it actually means is having the money as a debtor in the company's accounts, i.e. having money that now let me get this the right way around. Having money as an asset of the company, so money that the director owes to the company, bad idea. If the company owes money to the director, that's fine. If the director owes money to the company, that's bad for tax.
Okay, I hope that gives you enough general information about what you were looking for.
Can we take Jacqueline next?
Yes,
because she's right. She seems to keep getting bumped down the scale because for some reason other people's questions come in above hers. So yes, let's take her
no
next.
worries. She says, okay, I'm not yet VAT registered. However, can I claim back the tax I have to pay on raw materials by suppliers? Also, if so, is there a time period in which you can claim this back before it expires?
Okay, so Jacqueline, that's a very good question. When you register for VAT, what happens is you will be able to claim, to look back 4 years, that's your time period, and claim back the VAT on any goods you buy for sale and any assets, things like computers or chairs or what have you, that you've bought within the last 4 years and still have. You can't reclaim the VAT on any stock or assets that you don't still have because, say, you've sold the stock or you've scrapped the asset. You've got to still have it at the point where you register. Also, you can reclaim VAT that you've paid out on services, so that's things like solicitors' fees or accountants' fees, in the 6 months before you register. So that's what you do. So yes, it's 4 years for stock or assets, and remember, you've still got to have the stock or the asset. And also, you can't reclaim VAT on any goods that you've used up. So anything like mileage, electricity, gas, no, out of luck. It's got to be stock or assets that you bought in the last 4 years and still have.
Okay. As I said, yes. Sorry, we didn't get to that earlier. Other questions sort of bumped it out, but she did say thank you very much for such a good interaction. That's brilliant.
That's a pleasure.
Awesome to hear. As I say, these sessions are always so much better when we have loads of questions to answer.
They certainly are.
So no, thank you very much for asking. It looks like we've got one question left from Greg. So Luke said, thanks for your help. I appreciate your time and knowledge.
That's a pleasure, Luke. Glad to help.
Thank you very much. So Greg's question is, he says, thanks for answering my question earlier about claiming back on furniture costs prior to registering. When I try to input this in FreeAgent, it won't allow me to enter a date prior to my registration. If I put in the date of registration, it won't match the receipt. That
doesn't matter in this situation, Greg. Usually, yes, you do need to make sure that that it enters that it matches. But in this case, because HMRC say that you treat anything that you're claiming as pre-registration cost as if it was bought on the day you registered. In this case, it doesn't actually matter if it doesn't match the receipt.
Okay, we've got that. Actually, we'll take a few more, but only a few more. Not got very long left. Okay, this is from Valentis, who says, I don't know whether you've already mentioned it. I don't think we have. But how do you justify or describe FreeAgent subscription in FreeAgent? So is it a subscription fee or is it an accountant fee?
Okay, I would actually say Valentis neither. I would actually say computer software. Subscription fee is quite sensitive as far as HMRC are concerned. They've got a long list of professional bodies that they say you can claim subscriptions to. So I would keep it out of subscriptions. I would also keep accountant fee just for money that you actually pay to an accountant. I'd put it in computer software.
Okay, I hope that helps. And I think this might well be the last one, from Bjorn, who says, I work on location as a cameraman. Can I claim my meals when I'm away working?
I would say the rule of thumb is that yes, you could, Bjorn. Just be aware of the rules like base of operations and workplace. If you work on location in a particular location for a good while, so if you're an employee either of your own limited company or of people you work for, that would be 2 years, and you'd have to spend more than 40% of your time there. Make sure that your locations don't become your base of operations, so to speak. But apart from that, I would say yes, you should be fine.
That's it. We do actually have an infographic as well about
claiming food.
Yeah, can I claim my lunch on the go? Which we'll post up on the page as well. So if anyone else has got any queries about food expenses,
because the basic rule of thumb with food is that everybody's got to eat to live. So HMRC can be quite strict about when you can claim food. So if you're a sole trader, Beyond, what they would say is that you could claim the cost of your food if you were on an unusual journey as far as your business is concerned, or if you were away from home overnight, or if your business is, quote, by nature itinerant. And you know, as a location cameraman, I think your business would be by nature itinerant, but that's from the limited knowledge I have from reading your questions. So if you're not sure, do check with your accountant or with HMRC.
Excellent. I hope that helps. We've got a couple more comments that just say thanks very much for answering the questions.
Pleasure.
The hangouts are great and much appreciated. That's great. Thank you so much, everyone. As you know, I've said it a few times, but these sessions are always really, really, really good when we have a stream of questions that come in from you guys, because otherwise it's me and Emily that just talk between ourselves.
We've got two more. We've got two more.
Oh, 2 more questions. Okay,
yes,
okay. But these have to be the very final 2, because otherwise we need to go.
Yep. So okay. So Greg says, one last question. If I claim back £35 in mileage, how do I include my petrol receipt? Well, the answer is, Greg, you don't have to unless you're registered for VAT. If you're registered for VAT and you want to reclaim the VAT on your mileage, then you need to attach the receipt to the mileage form in FreeAgent. Your petrol receipt, though, if you're claiming back mileage, then that covers all the costs of running your vehicle. It might be a car or a van or a motorbike, but that covers all the costs of running it, so you don't put your petrol in as well. If in FreeAgent you pay the petrol out of your business bank account and you're claiming mileage, explain the petrol as drawings, not as motor expenses, or you'll be claiming tax relief twice on the same expense and you'll get the revenue after you.
Okay. That's done. I see Luke saying he's now changing his subscription to computer software in FreeAgent. So yeah, thanks.
Yes, he says thank you, Valantis, for that question.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Bjorn saying thanks very much for the info. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And okay, very, very last question.
Yes.
After this, no more. We'll have to cut it off. It's from Caroline, who says, sorry to keep you. I work for an international company advising on legal issues. I travel to Dublin. Is this okay to expense?
If it's a one-off journey, Caroline, then yes, you should be fine. Watch out though, if you what I would probably not suggest you do is stay in Dublin for a couple of days afterwards and have a holiday, because HMRC have been known to then say, well, I'm not going to agree any of the trip. Though, mind you, that was actually to attend a conference rather than to do any work in that particular case. Sorry, that sounded really bad, as if going to a conference isn't doing work. So if just be a little bit careful if you have a trip that combines business and pleasure. If it is, for example, going to see a client, as you describe, and then you spend an extra day in Dublin to see the sites, you should then be okay to claim the part of the trip that relates to the business. So, for example, the travel and the accommodation for the nights when you're visiting clients. Don't, though, claim the nights when you stay for a holiday.
Yeah.
If it's for a conference, then HMRC, as I say, they have actually squashed all the travel and accommodation claim for the whole trip if you do a conference and a holiday as well. Mm-hmm. I think, to answer your question, yes, I think that should be fine. Just make sure if it's a regular trip, check the rules, check with your accountant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just be sensible as well,
exactly.
More than anything.
Exactly.
Excellent. That's great, Caroline. Okay, and that's it. No more questions, which is a bonus because we don't have any that have come through. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for stopping by. We really hope that the answers have been useful. By the sounds of the feedback, there's been quite a few that have been, so not at all. You're all very welcome. We're going to actually probably be doing another hangout later on this month. I think they're talking about doing a VAT one specifically. So if you're interested in that and coming along, then keep an eye out on our Google Plus page or our Twitter feed and our Facebook pages, and we'll give the information out when we have it. And we might also be sending out an email about it, but I don't know yet. But that's the sort of tentative plan. We do also do live regular text Q&As every week on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock in the morning. They take place here on Google Plus and also on Facebook. You can find us there at FreeAgent app on Facebook. But that's basically the same deal, but you don't get the fancy video. It's us sitting down and basically answering text questions. So if there's something that you want to come and ask us, usually we've got a topic that, either VAT, expenses, invoicing. We're fairly open on what kind of questions we'll take those. So if there's something that you really want to ask, then come back and join us on Wednesday mornings. Aside from that, we have also quite a lot of expenses information up on our website as well. That's including the stuff that we're going to put onto the Google Plus page. So that's all the infographics that we've talked about. But we also have quite a big archive of information about expenses and bookkeeping and how to sort of log it all and what mistakes are there to be made. So, what mistakes are there that you should be avoiding. So if you go over to freeagent.com and go and look on our blog, then you'll be able to find a load of that. So hopefully all that will be useful too. And very finally as well, I think a lot of people that have come today are FreeAgent users, and that's brilliant. Really hope you're getting on very well with it. We'd say if you're not, then please do go across to freeagent.com and have a look. Take out a 30-day free trial and have a play with it and see if it's right for you for managing your business books. And if you've got any issues, then give us a shout. We've got a dedicated support team on hand who are always happy and willing to take questions about the system and what you're doing with it. And if you are a user, then remember as well that we've got a referral program. So if you refer a friend to us, then you get 10% off.
You do indeed.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time. And it's been really good fun.
Great.
Enjoyed it. Thanks very much, Em.
Thanks, Adrian. Cheers.
No worries. Bye.
Bye.